Back to you. Back to Clive, that is.
Thomas, thank you for that. That's it from Washington. Before we join our colleagues for the news where you are, here are some highlights from the election campaign. Have a very good night.
More Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
I accept your nomination. People start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in.
We can fix every single problem our country faces and lead America, indeed the world.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Are we ready to do this?
Get out and vote.
Gary O'Donoghue there with the Trump campaign in Florida. Thank you very much. And we want to welcome in our viewers in the UK here on election night. And we are reporting, of course, from the swing state of Wisconsin. I want to bring back in our political panel, Brandon Schultz, former Wisconsin Republican Party chair, Martha Lanning, former Wisconsin Democrat Party chair. Let's just start with you, Martha. Final thoughts here now. We're obviously just moments away from the polls closing in this state. It has been a campaign really like no other. How have you viewed this as someone who obviously has been in the political game for a long time?
So I still think it's a coin toss till they close the polls.
It is one of those elections that we have really not seen for decades. Incredibly tight here in Wisconsin and really across the country. A live look now at Washington, D.C. and the White House. That is the big prize tonight. We're expecting those polls to be closing. Republicans, Democrats getting their votes in. Americans across the country waiting to see who will be the next occupant of the White House here on election night. Thanks for watching World News America.
We're just minutes away from the first results in a historically close election.
After months of campaigning across the country, it is the final countdown to knowing who will lead the United States for the next 4 years.
It's an election night matchup that seemed unlikely just months ago.
Now it comes down to Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. The BBC is right in the heart of the action.
I'm Sarah Smith at the Harris HQ in Washington, D.C., where her supporters will be watching the results coming in and hoping to see the candidate herself later tonight.
I'm Gary O'Donoghue with the Trump campaign in Florida, where the former president is expecting these results to deliver him an historic return to the White House.
I'm Clive Myrie in Washington, where Joe Biden will be watching the results come in at the White House to discover who'll be replacing him in the Oval Office.
BBC reporters are on the ground in the 7 swing states where this election will likely be won and lost. In Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, in North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. They're speaking to voters and hearing from the candidates as the results come in.
And across the globe, our correspondents are getting reaction in critical regions and analyzing the impact this election will have on the rest of the world.
Here in Washington, Christian Fraser is at the touchscreen, breaking down the results as they happen.
Our U.S. special correspondent, Katty Kay, is here, along with our expert panel for analysis throughout the night.
And as the night unfolds, BBC Verify's Mariana Spring will be working to separate fact from fiction in this highly contested election.
I'm Sumi Somaskanda.
And I'm Caitriona Perry. We're live in Washington. This is the BBC's Election Night programme. you're looking at live pictures of voting taking place right now all around the United States. In just a few minutes, we'll get the first results of the 2024 US presidential election. When polls begin to close in the states of Indiana and Kentucky, we'll bring them to you live as we get them.
More than 80 million people already participated in pre-election voting around the country, some states seeing record numbers. Now, the campaigns are preparing for the long haul as results come in, and this could be one of the tightest races in modern U.S. history.
The BBC is following this election across the U.S. and around the world like no one else can.
Here in Washington, we have our expert panel, former members of Congress Rodney Davis and Stephanie Murphy and Katty Kay with us. Stay with us all night long as we bring you up-to-the-minute results and race projections. First, let's get right to our correspondents. BBC North America editor Sarah Smith is at the Harris campaign watch party right here in Washington, D.C. Sarah, what's the mood like there tonight?
For Kamala Harris in the Atlanta suburbs. We'll continue to watch it.
First results coming into us now. Well, we are approaching another key moment tonight, another set of polls about to close. Poll closures, of course, staggered across the United States because of the many time zones that there are in this vast, vast country. The polls all close at different times depending on the rules in each state. So let's see what we can bring to you now.
All right, it is 7:30 here in Washington, 12:30 a.m. in London. Polls have now closed in that key swing state of North Carolina, as well as Ohio and West Virginia. You can see here together, these states make up 37 electoral votes. Another reminder for you, the presidential candidate needs 270 votes to win the White House. Let's take a look at what we can say so far about these states that have closed. None of them can be projected just yet, but we do know at this point that the polls have closed. So Ohio, this is a key Midwestern state with 17 electoral votes. It is now reliably Republican. It is too early to project. West Virginia, also with 4 electoral votes, another red state, Republican state, too early to project. And North Carolina, that key swing state we've been watching for weeks and months, right now, too early to project. This has just come in now. All right, West Virginia, we can see, is projected for Donald Trump. Again, West Virginia for Donald Trump with those 4 electoral votes. This is a conservative state, one that Donald Trump and his team can add to his tally. Let's take a look at where that leaves us. All right, right now, Donald Trump with 23 electoral votes, Kamala Harris with 3. Again, that middle line is where they want to get 270 to win. We're going to see these numbers continue to tick up. We're going to keep watching those results for you as they come in. We mentioned the polls have just closed in North Carolina. Both teams have been battling, both sides, campaigns, to try to win North Carolina. Our correspondent, Helena Humphrey, is there for us tonight. Helena, it's great to see you. What is the sense that people have there tonight on such a big night for this state? Comeback for the ages. Thank you so much, Gary. Welcome to the BBC's U.S. election results program.
We're live in Washington, D.C. for BBC News and BBC Breakfast.
Donald Trump declares victory in the U.S. election just a few moments ago. He is now just 4 electoral college votes away from the total needed for a second term in the White House.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Mr. Trump appeared on stage alongside his family, campaign team, and his running mate, J.D. Vance, who would be one of the youngest vice presidents ever.
And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
As J.D. Vance put it there, Donald Trump is now poised to make a historic comeback not seen in this country in more than a century. The results are not final yet. We're still waiting on counting. We'll track those results as they come in.
And Kamala Harris has not conceded this election yet. At her headquarters, supporters streamed out after learning she would not be speaking tonight.
Hello there, thank you for joining us live from Washington, D.C. I'm John Kay.
And I'm Sumi Somaskanda. Donald Trump appears poised for an extraordinary comeback as just moments ago, the former president declared victory in tonight's historic presidential election. Now, it has not yet been projected that Mr. Trump has won, but his path to victory is all but certain. Just 4 votes shy of the 270 electoral votes needed to clinch the White House.
Currently on 266, so just 4 short. The former president has been addressing jubilant supporters in Florida just in the last few minutes, rallying the crowd around his key campaign issues, the economy and immigration, of course.
Right.
There are a lot of other these issues that I believe now will be addressed.
Okay, certainly. Well, that's a really important point, and one we're going to be looking at, of course, as we try to start to think about a second term for Donald Trump and what that might mean for the White House, of course. But this has been a truly extraordinary morning here in the UK hours as we've been looking at Donald Trump declaring victory after edging ever closer to that magic number of 270 electoral votes. Welcome to the BBC's U.S. election results program.
We're live in Washington, D.C. for BBC News and BBC Breakfast.
Donald Trump declares victory in the U.S. election. He is just 4 electoral votes away from the total needed for a second term in the White House.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Donald Trump appeared on stage alongside his family, campaign team and his running mate J.D. Vance, who would be one of the youngest vice presidents ever.
And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
Donald Trump is now poised to make a historic comeback not seen in this country in more than a century. And we will be tracking those final results as they come in.
Now, Kamala Harris has not conceded this election at her headquarters. Supporters streamed out after learning she would not be speaking tonight.
Hello there, thank you for joining us live from Washington, D.C. I'm John Kay.
And I'm Sumi Somaskanda. Donald Trump appears poised for an extraordinary comeback as just over an hour ago, the former president declared victory in tonight's historic presidential election. It has not yet been projected that Mr. Trump has won, but his path to victory is all but certain. Just 4 votes shy of the 270 electoral votes you can see on your screen there needed to clinch the White House.
Is crucially important. And I think the platform formerly known as Twitter, X, it's not what it used to be, but it reaches a hell of a lot of people. And I think this is only the beginning of trying to really understand what Elon Musk wants from Donald Trump and what impact he can have.
And what role.
Exactly.
We're speaking in unison now at this point.
For one person.
After so many hours together.
Yeah.
Very much indeed. Just
right,
start of the debrief as it begins after these extraordinary results tonight.
And welcome to the BBC's U.S. election results program live from Washington, D.C. Donald Trump declares victory in the U.S. election. He is just 4 electoral votes away from the total needed for a second term in the White House.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Donald Trump appeared on stage alongside his family, his campaign team, and his running mate, J.D. Vance, who would be the youngest vice president ever.
And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
And indeed, Donald Trump is poised to make an historic comeback not seen in this country in more than a century.
Now, of course, Kamala Harris has not conceded. She has gone home for the night and said she would make an address tomorrow, and we will be tracking all those results, what's left of them, as we see them. Thanks for being with us. We are live here in Washington, D.C. I'm Caitriona Perry.
And I'm Sumi Somaskanda. Donald Trump appears poised for an extraordinary comeback as just over an hour ago, the former president declared victory in tonight's historic presidential election. Now, it has not yet been projected that Mr. Trump has won, but his path to victory is all but certain, just 4 votes shy of the 270 electoral votes needed to clinch the White House.
Now, the former president earlier addressed jubilant supporters in Florida, rallying that crowd around his key campaign issues, the economy and immigration. Meanwhile, at Kamala Harris's headquarters in Washington, D.C., well, the mood was very different. Anxiety built throughout the night as the vice president lost major swing states to Donald Trump. First, Georgia, and then North Carolina, and then the biggest prize of the night, Pennsylvania, and its 19 electoral college votes. Well, let's take a look at the swing states and where they are now with Christian Fraser. Christian, what can you tell us? That is a point as well she was making there about how divided this country was going into the poll today and how divided it's going to be now with this result.
Well, certainly for Donald Trump, the result he wanted this night and morning going exactly how the Trump campaign had hoped, with him now projected the 47th president of the United States.
And they did, the Trump campaign did project that it would be a quick result and that they would sweep the boards. And it does look like they are going to sweep all of those 7 swing states that we've been talking about for hours tonight, for weeks and months before that. But it is a tremendous victory for Donald Trump, for the Republican Party, as he is the 47th president of America.
Take a look at how it unfolded. We do now have the state of North Carolina coming into us, a projection that we can make at this hour. Here we go. North Carolina projected for Donald Trump.
All those rallies, all that footfall from the Trump campaign in North Carolina, especially in the past 5 days, appears to have paid off.
This is huge. This is the second swing state now that has been projected as a win for Donald Trump. This is Georgia, and it's 16 electoral votes.
We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight.
Major projection to bring to you now, a really, really huge one. We can project Pennsylvania for Donald Trump.
We came in with high expectations, and once again, the polls are wrong.
And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
We're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country.
That projection coming to us from our CBS News partners. Donald Trump, America's 47th president.